You're going to learn something in this video, and I'm also going to change your mindset. I have no doubt about that. But I also want to make sure that you stay tuned all the way to the end, because I'm going to reveal to you a secret weapon, and that's no joke. It's a smart bomb in your battle against weeds, so make sure you watch all the way to see what it is. So let's talk about getting rid of weeds in the lawn. This time of year, you'll hear me talking a lot about pre- and post-emergent weed controls as weapons in the war against them. But before you can utilize these weapons, it's important to understand the layout of the battlefield so you can set the right strategy. And when it comes to weed control strategy, the battlefield, it's been in existence for over 100 years and mostly takes place below the ground. So let's talk about it. Did you know that your lawn actually contains an extremely wealthy bank under the ground? It's a bank of weed seeds, seeds that have been deposited there over many years, long before your house or neighborhood ever existed. It's known as the soil seed bank. Now, the soil seed bank, it's not just about lawns. It's actually a real term found in the literature, and it's used and defined like this. The soil seed bank is a natural storage of seeds often dormant within the soil of most ecosystems. The study of soil seed banks started in 1859 when Charles Darwin observed the emergence of seedlings using soil samples from the bottom of a lake. The first scientific paper on the subject was published in 1882 and reported on the occurrence of seeds at different soil depths. Weed seed banks, they've been studied intensely in agricultural science because of their importance and economic impacts. Other fields of study that are interested in soil seed banks include forest regeneration and restoration ecology. Now, we're going to talk about weed seed banks and in the soil beneath your lawn today, but I just wanted you to realize that not all soil seed banks are negative or bad. In forest fires, for example, the soil seed bank is important to regeneration. After a forest fire, what you'll almost always see are the grasses grow up first. This is the soil seed bank in action. Those grass seeds, they may have been lying dormant for years, and their job after a fire is twofold. First, they help fight erosion. Without a living root, soil can be washed away in rainstorms or blown away in the wind. Grass grows very fast and it anchors the soil while the rest of the forest soil seed bank continues to regenerate with secondary and tertiary plants and trees that are just a little slower to grow back and recover. The grasses that sprout up after a forest fire, they also play a vital role in keeping soil life healthy. Microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, they require a living root in order to survive. The key to healthy soil is a living root, and without a living root, soil becomes literally a desert. All right, so now let's turn our attention to your 5,000 square foot patch of Kentucky Bluegrass, turf-type tall fescue, or maybe Bermuda or St. Augustine. It's the welcome mat to your home. We want it thick and green, vigorous and clean, and weeds are a natural enemy to that end. Your mission as the owner of that piece of ground is to deplete the seed bank. Now, so many times I see this, someone starts up their lawn program and they apply prodiamine pre-emergent twice in the spring, just like my plans call for, and then they pick up with some post-emergent weed control and they spot spray existing weeds, they clean things up and they get on the right track. And then the summer rainy season kicks in and that clean, beautiful lawn gets invaded again by weeds, and sometimes it's even worse than where you started. And I understand it. Your first thought is, my neighbors, they're at fault. Their weeds are invading my lawn. And in many cases that can be true, but the real invaders, they're coming from underground as nature continues to make withdrawals from the seed bank in your lawn. Now, chances are that you've allowed some fresh deposits of your own. Maybe you started working on your lawn, say in 2023, you did fairly well, but then in 2024, you got busy with life and you allowed some weeds to grow. These weeds for sure deposited more seeds into the seed bank. It's like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Now, I point this out because I want you to understand that depleting the seed bank, it's not like a one and done type activity. This is a war and it can last for years and it requires true dedication and no ceasefire negotiation. Now, the best example I can give you in regards to depleting the seed bank is one I've talked about before, and it's the battle against crabgrass. Crabgrass, it's an annual grassy weed, and that means that the seeds that are in the ground, they sprout in the spring. The plant matures during the summer and then it drops seed in the fall and it dies. That plant being an annual means it only lives 1 year. However, it makes a deposit of thousands of seeds into the soil seed bank before it does. Here's the thing. Not all crabgrass seeds from last year are going to germinate this year. They can remain dormant in the soil for 2 to 3 years or more, just waiting for the right conditions. Some get deposited near the soil surface, others end up migrating deeper, and knowing that, we apply pre-emergent prodiamine in the spring. It stops the seed from germinating by forming a vapor barrier right at the surface of the soil. The seeds germinate, but they can't mature because the active ingredient prodiamine, it's from the chemical class known as dinitroaniline herbicides. Dinitroaniline, it works by inhibiting microtubule formation in plant cells, disrupting cell division and root development, which prevents the weed seedlings from establishing. Prodiamine, it persists for several months, depleting the soil seed bank of crabgrass seeds. But as you may know, even the perfect application of prodiamine, you still might have some breakthrough. Typically find this around the edges of the lawn where the vapor barrier can be disrupted from excessive heat radiating off the concrete or from foot traffic. But we have weapons for that too. Post-emergent herbicides such as quinclorac. Quinclorac is a subset of synthetic auxin herbicides, and it disrupts plant growth by overstimulating cell division and elongation, leading to abnormal growth patterns that eventually kill the crabgrass plant. The most important part, though, of this post-emergent strategy is getting onto the breakaways early before they can set and drop more seeds to replenish the bank. So the combination of pre-emergence and post-emergence against crabgrass can deplete the soil seed bank in around 3 to 4 years. Even lawns that have been completely neglected for over a decade or more, where crabgrass has just been allowed to run rampant, the seed bank can be completely disrupted and depleted in about 3 to 4 years. Okay, now that's just one single weedy grass. Most of you have multiple weeds that you're dealing with, and not just grassy weeds, but broadleaf weeds as well. Imagine a place like this right here. What do you think the seed bank in this soil here looks like? And how long do you think it would take to deplete it if you were going to turn it into the lawn care nuts ultimate oasis? Look at that. Even out here in the country. Nutsedge. And not only the seeds, but nutsedge survives just if a small piece of the rhizome gets cut off, it'll just regrow from that. Not only are you dealing with seed banks, but you're also dealing with rhizomes that can just respread or respawn from just a small tiny piece. Even in the areas that you got semi-cleared where you're going to put your pole barn, you still have a huge seed bank and just all kinds of garbage in the soil. By the way, look at this. Beautiful, beautiful sandy Florida soil right there, boys and girls. Oh, and we actually already have some Bahia grass. So, I don't know, maybe we'll just turn it into a big old patch of Bahia, huh? So just imagine where you live now in your tract home with 200 houses and a nice, well-manicured subdivision. At one time, it may have looked like that, or even worse. Now it's all the way down to the point where you're dealing with sporadic weeds or maybe a lot of weeds. But somewhere along the line, a lot of the seed bank was already burned out. And so what you need to do is finish the job, burn the rest of it out so you can have beautiful, gorgeous turf grass. Can you picture it? All right, now the reason that I'm going into all this detail is to get your mindset right. If you own a lawn that's been neglected, or even one that's brand new that was just built on, say, on top of a former farm field, keep in mind that weed control is not a short-term strategy. It requires persistence over a number of years to completely deplete the soil seed bank that you've been chosen to manage. Overgrown weeds deposit, but lawn care nuts withdraw. Now, we're not going to get into a whole lot of detail about the herbicide selection in this particular video. It's not really about blanketing the earth with chemicals. Chemicals, or ides, they do play a part, and coming up here, I'm going to talk more about that smart bomb that I mentioned in the very beginning of the video. But for now, let's talk about the importance that your actual lawn, your actual turf plays in the strategy. And so the very best defense against weeds is a thick lawn. You ever notice that when you do get weeds, it's often in a thin or a bare spot? That's because those areas are open to sunlight and water, and it gets deeper down. That awakens the seeds in the soil seed bank, and they immediately fill in. Having a thick lawn shades the soil and creates competition for those weeds, oftentimes crowding them out. This is especially true with warm season turf, which is adapted to spread with rhizomes and stolons and literally choke out invading weeds. And speaking of the neighbor's weeds that you think might be blowing into yours, a thick lawn at your house, it can keep the weed seeds from being able to hit and settle into the soil seed bank. Think of your lawn like a thick steel vault that keeps seeds from ever getting in. All right, now real quick, I also want to mention the soil bud bank. Many of you in this audience, you enjoy bud as much as I do, but that's not the type of grass I'm referring to here. The soil bud bank refers to the collection of dormant, below-ground vegetative buds found on structures like rhizomes, underground stems, roots, bulbs, or stolons. These buds are capable of sprouting into new shoots and plants without relying on seeds. Unlike the soil seed bank, which deals with sexual reproduction via seeds, the bud bank is all about asexual or vegetative reproduction. It's a survival strategy for plants to regenerate after events like a fire, grazing, drought, or even a herbicide application. Common examples are kalinga or nutsedge that has the nutlet underground that can send up new plants when the above ground fleshy parts are killed, died, or picked. Another example would be be common or wild Bermuda grass. It can regrow from just a small piece of its rhizome left in the ground. The thing about a lot of these invaders is there's really no post-emergent herbicide in existence that can kill them without harming your good grass, and on top of that, they can break right through even the thickest lawn defense. In cool season lawns, I'm referring to problems such as Poa annua, Poa trivialis. Every year in the early summer, in my Facebook groups, we see the Poa panic where everybody thinks they have it. Another big one that we find later in the summer is the invasion of creeping bent grass. It lays flat and spreads out in lawns across much of the Midwest and the Northeast. Or how about nimblewill or the dreaded clumping tall fescue? There is no way to stop these other than digging them out by hand, and even with that, they'll just return within a few short months or weeks, again because of that bud base. Now in the South, we have similar challenges with undesirable weeds and grasses for which there's no herbicide that exists. I'm talking about torpedo grass, common or wild Bermuda, Dallas grass, goosegrass, signal grass, or knot grass. So now, we're finally here. Here's the smart bomb that you can use to cure all of these. Now in the South, it's ProVista or Viridian St Augustine grass. I'm sitting here in my beautiful thick patch of Viridian here in my front yard. And you can see it's super dark green. In fact, this is the darkest green St. Augustine grass on the market, hands down. And while that turns heads and is awesome for my domination, the smartest part about this grass is its glyphosate tolerance. This is ProVista St. Augustine grass, the older cousin to the Viridian that I have out front. It is also glyphosate tolerant, and right now it's available in Florida, Texas, and South Carolina. Now, if you're unfamiliar with glyphosate, I'll give you a rundown in a second here, but for my friends who live up north and you have cool season grass, you can get ProVista Kentucky Bluegrass seeds and grow a brand new lawn that is darker green in color and is also, you guessed it, glyphosate tolerant. Now I happen to sell this seed because I buy it directly from Scott's, and I'll give you a link below. Now because it's glyphosate tolerant, you can grow this one in the spring with no fear of weed pressure taking over. That's right, all these years I've been telling you, don't seed in the spring, the weeds are gonna destroy your grow-in. But with ProVista Kentucky Bluegrass, that's no longer a concern. Again, I'll provide links in the description below. Now, if you live in Florida, Texas, or South Carolina, I'll give you a link to the Scott's website below. It goes directly to my friend Scott, and yes, that's his name, Scott. He is actually in charge of the Viridian and ProVista programs, and when you put in your information in that link below, he will direct you to a certified farm near you. So what is glyphosate? It's a non-selective herbicide, which means it's not selective about what it kills. When you spray it on pretty much any green plant, it'll kill it. It's not selective about what it kills, and it will wipe out all of those weeds that we've been talking about here. It will also kill conventional St. Augustine or conventional Kentucky bluegrass. The smart bomb here is a knowledge bomb. The folks at Scott's Research and Development, they've created technology where they can make these specific grasses called ProVista or Viridian glyphosate tolerant, so this won't harm them. That's right, ProVista and Viridian St. Augustine grass and ProVista Kentucky bluegrass, they do not die when sprayed with glyphosate, but the weeds do. So for those of you up north with Poa annua problems, clumping tall fescue, creeping bent grass, go ahead and plan to reseed in spring or fall and get ProVista, so in the future, when those problems return, you now have the tool of glyphosate to easily eliminate them. And it's the same for you all down here. Maybe you're struggling with common or wild Bermuda, signal grass, torpedo grass. You can get ProVista or Viridian sod, and now you have that exact same tool at your disposal to eliminate all those problems that were previously unsolvable. And did I mention how dark green it is? Now, I have a whole bunch of links in the description below giving you lots more information about these grasses. While you're down there, hit the like button, subscribe, leave me a comment, and as always, I'll see you in the lawn.